You work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You watch your health, your money, your image. But there's one account you never check, and that's the exact account that's bankrupting you. Today, I'm going to show you how you're handing your emotional energy over to people who don't deserve a cent of it, and how to shut that down right now without another feel-good motivational clip. Let me reconstruct your day yesterday, and I don't even know you. You woke up already checking your phone, and some message, some headline, some random comment already took a few minutes of your peace before you even brushed your teeth. At work, a coworker fired off some backhanded comment, half joke, half jab, and you spent the whole morning chewing on a comeback you were never going to deliver anyway. In the afternoon, someone came at you unfairly, and you carried that home, literally, in your chest. At night, lying there, the replay started. You relived the scene, wrote the perfect comeback you should have said, won the argument in your head about 5 times. That's bankruptcy. You worked a full day to earn money and then handed over, for free, the most expensive thing you own, your internal state, to people who won't even remember your name tomorrow. And here's the part nobody tells you. Anger, offense, resentment, none of it's free. It carries interest. You argue with some idiot in traffic at 8 a.m., and you're still paying that debt at noon, because your head won't switch off, your body stays on high alert, and you're short with everyone else for the rest of the day. That's compound interest. One small insult, if you let it run, turns into a massive emotional debt by the time you go to bed. The Stoics figured this out 2,000 years ago, without ever using the word economy, but the principle is identical. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world at the time, wrote himself a note every single morning. Not for anyone else, just for himself. Today, I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest. He wasn't writing that to feel sorry for himself. He was writing it so he wouldn't blow his emotional capital being shocked by the obvious. Because that's what actually breaks you. It's not the idiot who insults you. It's your surprise. It's the "how dare he?" It's the "I can't believe she did that to me." You walk around acting like the world signed a contract promising you courtesy, fairness, and common sense at all times, and it never did. No contract was ever signed. So listen to this one line, because it's worth the whole video by itself. You don't get mad at a dog for barking. You don't get offended when rain gets your clothes wet. Because it's in a dog's nature to bark, it's in rain's nature to be wet. So why do you treat every dumb comment from a broken human being like a personal catastrophe aimed specifically at you? It's not. Most of the time, that's just someone's nature showing up on schedule. A stressed-out boss yells because he's drowning in his own pressure. A relative who's full of criticism talks like that because his own life is a mess and he needs someone to feel superior to. A stranger honking and cursing in traffic is carrying rage from somewhere else, and you were just the closest target. This isn't an excuse for their behavior. It's a diagnosis. And a diagnosis doesn't ask for your anger back. Now pay attention, because this is where most guys get stuck. Separating toxic behavior from a personal attack isn't about being nice, isn't about letting things slide, isn't about swallowing it. It's asset protection. You don't haggle over price with every con artist who shows up in your life. You identify them, you categorize them, and you walk on with your wallet closed. Except here, the wallet isn't cash. It's your peace of mind. And you've been handing it out for free to anyone who hits the right button. There's one question that separates the guys who live at peace from the guys who live as hostages, and it's simple. Does this depend on me, or does it not? The weather doesn't depend on you. Traffic doesn't depend on you. What some stranger decides about you in 3 seconds doesn't depend on you. How your mother-in-law treats you at Sunday dinner doesn't depend on you. The face your boss makes when you walk into the room doesn't depend on you. What actually depends on you is a much shorter list. Your thoughts, your interpretation, your response, your action. That's it. Everything else is weather. Everything else is traffic. This isn't a bumper sticker. This is the dichotomy of control, one of the core pillars of Stoicism. And most men spend their entire day crossing that line without even noticing, burning energy trying to control the uncontrollable and suffering every time they fail. You want your boss to recognize your effort, not up to you. You want that relative to stop criticizing you, not up to you. You want the person who hurt you to feel remorse, not up to you, and it never will be. And while you're standing there, burning time and sanity trying to force a specific reaction out of someone you don't control, you're literally investing in a trade with no guaranteed return, ever. Now flip that logic around, onto your side. What you actually control, you control 100%. Your posture when someone provokes you, your breathing when the pressure spikes, the words that leave your mouth or don't. That's yours, fully yours. Nobody can take it. And that's exactly where your real strength lives. Because real strength was never about being immune to provocation. It's total command over the one thing that was always yours, the response. Let me get ahead of what you're already thinking, because I know you're thinking it. Isn't that cold? Doesn't that turn me into someone with no feelings? No. And that confusion is exactly what keeps 90% of men trapped. Calculated coldness isn't the absence of feeling, it's the management of feeling. You're not cold toward life. You're cold toward chaos that was never yours to begin with. You save your real warmth, your energy, your genuine passion for the people and the things that actually matter. A dad who screams at his kid every time the team loses isn't passionate, he's out of control. A guy who blows up at a coworker over a poorly worded comment isn't defending his value. He's letting a stranger set the tone for the rest of his day. And there's a second objection that always comes up. If I don't react, people will walk all over me. It's the exact opposite. Reacting is what teaches people to walk all over you, not silence. Every time someone provokes you and gets an explosion, a nervous justification, a panicked defense, that person just learned something valuable. They hold the remote control to your emotions. And they'll come back. They always come back, because it worked. When you don't hand over the reaction, you're not being weak, you're cutting the power supply. They hit the button, nothing happens. They hit it again, nothing. Eventually they stop hitting it, because there's no fun in playing with a remote that's out of batteries. Marcus Aurelius didn't become the most respected man of his era by exploding at everyone who challenged him. He became that man because nobody ever knew exactly where his limit was, and that, on its own, was more intimidating than any shouting match. Now let's get tactical. Enough theory. Let's talk about what you actually do in the exact moment someone provokes you. There's a gap of time between the trigger, the insult, the unfair criticism, the cheap shot, and your response. That gap lasts a few seconds tops, and your entire freedom lives inside it. Most men don't even know that gap exists because they've never trained themselves to use it. They react on autopilot, on the first impulse, in the first half second, and pay for it afterward. Practical rule. When someone comes at you, verbally, sarcastically, aggressively, you say nothing for the first 3 seconds. Not a word. Set your jaw, drop your shoulders on purpose, because tension climbs into your shoulders and neck without you noticing, and take one slow breath through your nose. 3 seconds sounds short, but socially, it's an eternity. The person who provoked you was expecting a game of ping pong. They serve the shot, you return it immediately, they smash it back even harder. They've spent their whole life playing that game with people who always return the ball. When you don't return it, when the ball just drops and nobody chases it, their whole game stalls out. They're standing there waiting for a response that isn't coming. And human beings are terrified of silence, especially insecure human beings, who need your reaction to confirm that the attack actually landed. When that silence stretches out, the pressure doesn't stay on you. It shifts onto whoever started the provocation. You've probably seen this play out. Someone fires off a nasty little jab, expecting either a laugh or a blow-up, and when neither comes, they start stammering, backpedaling, saying, "Come on, it was just a joke," before anyone even asked. Your look in that moment isn't angry, isn't smug, isn't submissive either. It's the look of someone simply observing. No urgency, nothing to prove. It's not a performance of indifference, it's actual indifference, because you already internalized block 2. That thing was never yours to control in the first place. After the silence comes the second tool, and it's even stronger. The question that hands the weight right back. Golden rule, write this down. Whoever explains themselves loses. The moment you start justifying, defending, proving your worth, you just agreed to stand trial in a courtroom nobody forced you into. You validated the attack simply by responding to it like it deserved a serious answer. Instead of defending yourself, you return it with a simple, calm, almost clinical question. Someone throws a passive-aggressive comment at you. You look at them and ask, "You having a rough day? Need to talk about it?" Someone drops a veiled dig. You don't pretend you missed it. You ask them to repeat it. "I didn't quite catch what you meant by that. Can you explain it to me?" That sounds harmless. It's actually the opposite. The coward who attacks from behind sarcasm depends entirely on ambiguity, on being able to say, "I never meant it that way," later. When you make him spell it out in front of everyone, he usually backs off, shrinks, and calls it a joke. You don't even need to celebrate the win. You just say, "Got it," and go on with your life. That flat, dry response humiliates more than any comeback ever could, because it proves the comment didn't even land hard enough to earn more than 2 words. Here's the actual mechanism behind why this works. People test limits constantly, most of the time without even realizing they're doing it. It's almost automatic, like a kid mashing a button just to see what happens. If you react with irritation, justification, or an explosion, you just handed out the prize. That person learned the button works, and they'll press it again the next time they need to feel important. When you answer with silence and a dry question instead, the button stops working, and people who love pressing buttons lose interest fast in a broken one. They go find another one somewhere else. This isn't about turning into a robot with no emotions. It's about refusing to pay, in cash, in front of everyone, for every cheap shot that walks into your life. It's easy to ignore some stranger in traffic. It's a whole different level of hard to hold that same calculated cool when the person provoking you is your father, your mother, your boss, your partner. Because those people have an advantage a stranger never gets. They have the map. They know exactly where to press, because they're the ones who installed the buttons, sometimes decades ago. With a stranger, dead silence usually solves it. With people close to you, total silence can turn into ammunition against you. They'll call you arrogant, cold, suddenly acting weird, and the conflict escalates instead of cooling down. For that kind of close-range emotional vampire, you need a more surgical tool: the gray rock method. Gray rock isn't disappearing. It isn't pretending you didn't hear. It's deliberately becoming boring, unreactive, with nothing left to feed on. You still respond, but flat, short, with zero emotion attached for that person to feast on. Understand this about manipulators and narcissists in your inner circle. Arguing with them was never a debate about facts. It's a test of emotional endurance, and they've been training for it their entire lives. Bringing proof doesn't help. Explaining your side in detail doesn't help. Calmly defending yourself doesn't help. For these people, your reaction, anger, tears, defensiveness, doesn't matter which, is the meal. They were never interested in being right. They're interested in watching you react. So, in practice, a toxic relative drops the usual dig at dinner. You don't storm off the table, don't yell back, don't spend 20 minutes defending your life choices. You respond short, flat, no defensive tone. That's one way to look at it. Then you change the subject or just go back to your plate. No drama and no pointed dead stare either, because even that's still a reaction, still fuel. It's genuine indifference. Boring, monotone. Nothing there for them to grab onto and keep the fight going. A boss loses it in a meeting. You don't shrink down, and you don't match his volume either. You let him finish, then respond quieter than he was. Short sentence, straight to the practical point. Understood, I'll fix it. Period. No emotional apology, no stepping into his game. The goal was never to win the argument. Arguing with a manipulator is burning time trying to win a game they already rigged with no fixed rules. The goal is to become a target so boring that over time, that person goes looking for a meal somewhere else because there's nothing tasty left on you to pull at. This takes more discipline than silence with a stranger because closeness creates automatic emotional expectation. Part of you still wants approval from that parent, that partner, and that's fine to feel. The mistake isn't feeling it. The mistake is handing over a reaction every single time that expectation gets crushed again. There's one piece of this nobody trains for, and it's the most important one: the enemy living inside your own skull. You can master silence, the return question, gray rock, and still take yourself apart at night, alone, with nobody in the room, just replaying it on a loop. That voice, replaying the argument over and over, drafting the perfect comeback you never actually said, is the exact same thing as spending money that already left your account. It changes nothing. It just charges you interest on a problem that ended hours ago. The Stoics used a simple image for this. You are the sky, your bad thoughts are the storm. The storm can be ugly, dark, loud, but it never, under any circumstances, scratches the sky. It rolls through and disappears. The sky stays exactly like it always was. The problem is, most men are convinced they are the storm, not the sky. Every bad thought that passes through gets promoted to identity. I'm a failure. I'm incompetent. I'm pathetic for freezing up back there. You are not the thought. The thought is just a passing cloud. When a negative thought shows up, you don't need to fight it. You don't need to argue yourself out of it. You just acknowledge it. No weight attached. Noted. Anything else? And you go straight back to what you were doing. That's not ignoring the problem. That's refusing to hand over time and energy to an internal judge that never had any real jurisdiction over your worth. The last tool, and maybe the single most practical one in this whole script, is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Before you leave the house, a few minutes, sitting down, you run through what's probably going to go wrong. Bad traffic, a difficult client, an annoying text, someone trying to get under your skin. You're not doing this to be a pessimist. You're doing it to steal chaos's only real advantage over you. Surprise! When the provocation actually shows up, 3 in the afternoon, room full of people, you won't react in shock because you already knew something like it was coming. You already rehearsed it. It just becomes confirmation of a script you'd already read, not an ambush. Do this every day, just a few minutes, and this discipline stops being a conscious effort and turns into automatic reflex. You stop having to remember to apply the techniques. You just respond that way because it became your default setting, not a mask you only remember to wear. Pull up that statement one more time, but look at it differently now. How much of your energy yesterday went to people who won't even remember your name today? How much suffering did you pay for out of pocket thinking it was mandatory? It wasn't. It never was. Drop a comment below. What's draining your energy the most right now? Traffic, work, someone at home? And if you want to keep training this kind of real control, no filler, no fluff, subscribe to the channel. Because here we treat Stoicism as a practical tool, not a quote you save and forget. From now on, every provocation that reaches you only costs what you decide to pay, and you just learned how to close the wallet.